Thank you, Chairman, and thank you to all our witnesses who are here today offering their expertise on this very important issue. And, you know, part of the work and central part of this work that the committee is doing is diagnosing the problems that are contributing to our nationwide economic disparities. But I think it's important that we get that story right, because there's a lot of theories that are thrown out there about what is causing a varying amount of economic inequities, including the racial wealth gap. But for the last couple of decades, one of those stories that was told, and one of those popular narratives, was that this is all due to the skill gap and automation, and basically robots and lack of education are why people are in poverty, and have directly contributed to the stagnation of wages in the United States. But the truth is, I think that that's not really supported by data. The wage stagnation of the last couple decades seems to be more of a policy choice. And the United States has chosen particularly trade policies that prioritize the interests of capital over the interests of workers. So I want to dig into this a little deeper. So Dr. Spriggs, if the goal is to improve wages, according to one of these stories, should workers impacted by automation or technological change simply upgrade their skills and education, and will all their problems go away?
Thank you, Congresswoman, for the question. Yes, that tends to be our running story. We celebrate inequality. This is part of what Dr. Posen is saying. We use, it's okay if you get paid well if you're a manufacturing worker. It's not okay for you to get paid well if you do something else. We accept inequality. Mm-hmm. So if you start with the premise that I accept that some people should be poor when they work, mm-hmm. I'm going to get poor workers. And that's part of our big problem here. And we then blame the workers. Mm-hmm. We as a nation have gone from undeserving poor, meaning you didn't work, to now undeserving workers. Mm-hmm. We actually say it's okay to work and be poor. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's his point, is that it's not okay that if I lose a union manufacturing job, that means, as Professor Graham is pointing out to us, that you excuse me living in poverty, unable to take care of myself, losing health care, losing a pension. That's not okay.
And Dr. Spriggs, just to interject, you know, especially on this point on skills and education, it's this idea that if people just get retrained or get a college degree, that a whole new level, it will simply unlock a new level of economic outcomes. But we have seen that there's actually been little growth in the college wage premium as well. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
Now, and I mean, this is even borne out by my personal experience. 3 years ago, I was waitressing downtown Manhattan, and almost every person I worked with was college educated. All the waitresses, hostesses, etc. They all had college degrees. Similarly, would you say that robots and other technological innovations have made workers, you know, there's this other myth that robots will replace workers, but we've actually seen that in countries like Germany that have nearly 5 times as many robots per capita, they haven't lost overall jobs either, have they?
Economists cheat here. So from 1966 to 2000, we had 17 million manufacturing workers. Obviously, that means the share of workers in manufacturing has gone down. But the experience for most workers isn't that a robot replaces you. A robot replaces a job opportunity for someone else. Mm. So the share of workers in that industry falls. It's not the same thing as me losing my job to a robot. More importantly, from 1946 to 1970-some, when we used robots to increase productivity and keep it 17 million, even though production was up, workers got paid more.
So
the difference is workers are more productive, but they don't get paid more.
And so would you say that it's fair to assess that the negative impact of, I'll say, corporate-friendly trade policies and the erosion of worker bargaining power has done more to erode the quality of work, it has done more for inequality than, say, robots and the skills gap?
Absolutely. It's as Dr. Posen was pointing out. We bend over backwards to please these companies, and workers are forced into that game as well. In order to keep your job, take a pay cut, take a pension cut, take anything in order to keep your job. And that leverage has changed and kept wages stagnant.
Thank you very much. You know, I think one of the effects of trade that I'd like for us to discuss a little bit is that when jobs get shipped overseas, it's not just the worker whose job has been shipped overseas that's impacted. It's all of us. Because now that displaced worker needs to find work somewhere else. It increases the level of competition for the jobs that are remaining here. And given our lack of bargaining and collective bargaining protections, that then drives wages down. And so a construction worker may not be displaced by imports, but they will now be competing with workers who have been displaced. And I want to focus on our federal policy response to this, because it seems that so far our federal policy has focused only on direct assistance to those displaced workers directly impacted by trade policy. But we know that those repercussions extend much further beyond just that individual assistance. So Dr. Spriggs or anyone else in the panel, what kind of community-based solutions should this committee be recommending that go beyond just the individual assistance for workers that may have been displaced by our trade policy?
For young workers in particular, they are at the huge disadvantage of now competing with no work experience and fewer good jobs to compete for. We need the ability to have direct job creation for those local communities to transition to when there will be other jobs. This is a Friday, Monday deal. I wake up, I'm graduating from high school, there are no jobs here. We know the response of local youngsters is they do acquire more education. But that's all well and good if I get the education, but leave. This doesn't leave my community a way to solve its problem. So this ability, the authority to have direct job creation to meet the needs of young workers is really paramount while we make the transition in the community and we keep the tax base as strong as possible so that local services don't go down.
And just to clarify, Dr. Spriggs, you're saying direct job creation by the federal government, correct?
Yes, or the authority of the local government to be able to say to young people, please don't everybody get on the bus.
Yeah. I think that speaks a bit to the point that that Representative Moore had brought up with this question of a federal jobs guarantee, because we're at a point where the economic data is showing that our local, state, and federal governments need to have the ability to use this as a tool, direct job creation. So thank you very much.